All right, I'll call the meeting to order. I'd like to begin by acknowledging we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. My name is Neil Harden. I am chairing today's hearing. With me is Robert Upton to my left and Lynn Elizabeth to my far left. The assessor today is Jonathan Dolinsky and the recording secretary is Michelle Neep. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that the applicants or assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the board. The board is appointed annually by council and is independent of it and the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the applications of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information how to do so will be included in the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following a swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. So can you do the swearing in, please?
Do you swear in or affirm? Swear. Can you state your full name, please?
Jonathan Dolinsky.
Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I swear. I'll affirm.
Do you affirm? Can you state your full name, please?
All right.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I
Okay, the first item on today's docket is 2026 Pembina Highway, and the issue is assessed value. So you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. File number 19-4304, roll number 0305392000. The address is 2026 Pembina Highway. The year built of this property is 1992. We have a leasable area square footage of 9,235. Recommendation is to confirm the assessed value of $2,004,000. Turning to page 3, we have an overhead view of the subject property, and on the bottom of page 3 is the parcel plan. Turning to page 4, some more exterior photos of the subject. And then turning to page 5 is our market income stream breakdown. We have vacancy at 4%, expenses at 2%, cap to use is 6.55%. This gets us to our estimated value of $2,004,000. Turning to page 7 are the subject comparables. We have 6 comparables here. Variation of different service garages. The first one being at 614 Lorette Ave. It is 2,268 square feet. A net per square foot rate of $13.23. Second one is at 2405 Pembina Highway. Square footage 12,129 square feet. Net per square foot $13.75. Third comparable is at 3333 Portage Ave. Square footage for this is 2,240 square feet, net per square foot of 1,550. Our fourth is at 721 Watt Street. Square footage of 1,400 square feet, net per square foot 1,590. Fifth comparable is at 460 Pembina Highway, 2,190 square feet, 1,644. And the last comparable is at 3335 Portage Ave, 2,308 square feet at 1,922. Included is income expense, but I don't need to speak to it, and that is my brief.
Okay, questions, Mr. Rick?
Yes, sure. You turn your comparable to page 7. Would you agree that rents are affected by economies of scale? In fact, the more space you rent, the lower the price could be as far as the rental rates?
Yeah, in a lot of cases, that's true.
Okay. So I noticed basically the subject property is 9,235 square feet, and I noticed that 5 of your comparables are basically under 3,000 square feet, except one. Is there any reason why you're using such small spaces?
No particular reason. I felt these best compared to the subject.
Okay. And turning to page 5, so obviously the premise ID, the first one, 6,163 square feet, that would be the service garage.
I believe so, yes.
And then the other two with the basement space, that would be the loop center, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I see that for the garage, you're using $16.99, and if you turn to page 7, the comparables, you only have one comparable close to that, that's $16.44. Would you not agree that to have a comparable to support that rate, you should have at least 3 comparables?
We blend our rates together, so blended it comes to,
Yeah, you have blended, it's $15.30. A square foot blended.
yes.
Okay. And the same question would go for the loop center, you've only got one at 2,308 square feet at 1922 per square foot. Again, don't you think to use that in the computer model, you would need at least 3 comparables to prove that?
Sorry, so what was your question?
Well, my question deals with the computer's kicking out these 2 numbers, obviously the computer's doing it. And you're here to prove that those numbers are correct to come up with a blended value, but in your comparables, I only see one comparison for each of those numbers. So if you're using comparisons to prove the computer model, I'm just asking, don't you think that you would need a couple more? Like, one doesn't really prove the computer model. I mean, typically speaking, you should have at least 3 comparables to prove that computer model. So I'm just wondering why you don't have more than that, or is that all you could find?
Like I said, we go with the blended rates, so I'm trying to prove that our blended rates is correct.
Okay. My last question is, you're using 477 on the basement of Loop Center. I see that you have no comparables to prove what the a Loop Center basement rent for, correct?
I don't have a loop center, no.
That's it for my questions.
Okay, Lynn, any questions?
Yeah, just about the cap rate, sorry, we skipped over that page. Well, you didn't skip over it, you mentioned it, but high level. So you're using a cap rate of 6.55 here, but where can I find that on your chart?
It's not, actually not in the chart. We don't have, the service garage cap rates in the chart.
So this evidence in your brief sort of doesn't apply. Did you bring any other evidence?
I did not in this particular case.
Can you explain then how you chose that 6.55 or how the model chose that 6.55?
Yeah, so the 6.55 is model driven. It's based on analysis from the market for this time period.
age of the premise have anything to do with it?
Age does have,
Location?
yes.
Okay. Okay. Now, with respect to the basement, you've given that a lower rate of 4.77, but again, as the appellant pointed out, there's nothing in your comparables that speaks to that 4.77.
Not as it on its own, we blend the rates together, and that's just how these properties are valued, these super
So
loops.
are these comparables then, are they similar types of premises as this super loop? Like there must be other super loops in the city, did you take a look at them?
Yeah, we are speaking to the other super loops in this docket.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
guess,
I guess I'm ahead of myself, not quite there yet.
sure.
Okay, okay, then we'll wait for that, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, just to be clear on this, we're dealing with two buildings here,
Yes,
and the service center is the larger of the two buildings.
that's correct.
Okay, it's the 6163.
Yes,
The other is the lube center, which has the basement.
that's correct.
So your blended rate is for what? The lube center or for both buildings?
Basically, the blended is between the loop center, so the 477 for the basement and the 1906 for the
Okay.
main floor.
That's the blended rate of those two is 1530. You said?
Sorry, 1 second. It comes to $11.92.
If you blend all of them together.
Yes.
11, sorry, 11.
All three blended together?
Oh, I'm
is-
sorry, didn't I? But you're blending the lube center basement and main floor at 1530.
Shoot. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'll give you the blended for all three here. It comes to $13.59
You can do all of them, okay.
for all three.
So the first one, the repair center, the automotive center, 1699, there's no basement in that?
No,
That's a standard kind of garage type with hoists and that sort of thing?
yes, I don't believe there's a basement.
Okay. So the basement is only with the lube part of the operation?
I believe so.
Okay. And when you look at your comparables, are there some of these are garages, just straight garages without the lube
Yes,
center?
mechanical, garages, Boyd Auto Body, Mr. Transmission, Auto Clinic, Deltron Canada, and Westwood Auto.
They're all
Tenants.
just straight service centers, they're not lube centers, is that?
Yeah, there's no lubes. The thing with lube centers, most of them are owner occupied.
Okay.
So the net rents aren't very good compare. There's no net rents.
Okay. And this one we're talking about is rented? It's not a- It's not a- is it
Yeah, they
owner-occupied?
report as net. It's net, but Lyle was telling me that they might be owner occupied.
They're all owner occupied.
They are owner
It's actually, it's a Winnipeg company.
Okay.
A fellow from Winnipeg started it. If you ever listen to CJOB, Jim Baruso advertises on there. So it's a homespun company.
Okay. That's all I have now, thank you.
Can I just ask clarification about the blended rate?
Sure.
What did you say the blended rate was for all three?
1350.
1359.
And can I ask you how you calculated that? Because I come up to 1530, so I'm just,
Unless I'm doing my math wrong, just adding them up and divided by 3.
that's how you did it?
Yeah,
Okay, so I took the leasable square area by the potential rent, divided by leasable square area, I get 1530. I don't know if that's the right
For
way
all
to do
Or
it for all three.
in terms of square footage, yeah.
So I don't know how it's supposed to be done.
Potential rent,
That's right.
divided by square footage is what we do our valuation off of. Yeah, 1530, I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's all three of them?
Yep.
Yeah.
What's just the two of them? What's just the Loop Center?
Just based off of our modeled rents, it would be 1906 plus 1192.
1192?
That's just based off of the rent per square foot.
Okay. Okay, that's the basement and the main floor of the Loop Center. 1192.
Just wait, I'll do 276. So just for just for the lubrication center, 1192.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, now I'm looking at your rates, particularly for the loops center, the upper floor, you got it in 1906. And yet, I look at your comparables, I'm looking at them, they're 13, 15, 15, 16. There's only one that's anywhere approaching that, 19, so that seems to be the anomaly. That single one is at 19, where most of the other ones seem to be at around 15 and a half to 16. Does that, doesn't that suggest that your rent perhaps is a little bit high for that?
If it was just the main floor, yes, but like I said, we blend the two rates together. So I'm more comparing just for the Loop Center at $11.92 per square foot.
Okay, do any of these ones then have a sort of pit where they do the lube work, or
I believe Mr. Transmission does,
Which one's that?
number 3. But I cannot speak to the other ones. Oh, sorry, the mechanical one as well, number 1. Typically, your auto centers do have a pit basement or mezz or whatever you want to call it to work underneath the vehicle.
Yeah.
But not a true basement all the time like the Super Loop, but usually there's an underneath area.
a lot of them just have hoist load that they lift the car up on.
Yeah, it depends on the place. Like
Yeah.
the Loop centers definitely do have the.
Yeah. Okay, I think I have no more questions, so you can give your presentation.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment on that, I've gone through all the comparables from the essentials, given all the briefs today, and there are no basements. All those type of facilities are built on grade. Places like Fountain Tire, Goodyear, etc., they'll have a mezz above the, when the building is built, it's built high enough on the shop side to put a car in a lift and take it up so it doesn't hit the ceiling. So you walk in the main office, there's always a reception area, and you'll always see there's a mezzanine above there, because there's no sense wasting that space. And they're all built basically the same way, they're all built on grade. And today, as you know, when you walk in, they all have the lifts now, instead of coming out of the ground, they sit on the floor. And we'll go to a transmission place actually in one of the briefs today, and everything goes up in a lift. You basically take another hydraulic lift, strap the transmission on it, and bring it down. Nobody has pits today. The only thing that has pits today are basically these loop centers, because they're built purpose. There's only one purpose of a loop center, and that's to change oil. And that's so that they have a pit in there, so the person never gets out of the car. You drive in there, you get your oil changed, they don't let you leave the car, because it's the shop area. You just drain the oil from the bottom, and that's what it's designed for. One purpose and one purpose only is to drain oil. So, none of the other comparables have a pit. So I'll get to my brief now, and we talked about it. I'd like to show you this, the picture on the middle there. That's what's down there. That's what's down in there. There's tanks to hold oil, pumps oil up, because when they fill your car up, they don't fill your car with a can. You pull a rope down and it goes ding, 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 and it fills your car up. So those tanks down there are for two purposes. One's for the oil storage to put in your car, one's for oil storage to save from your car. And the ceiling height in there is only about 6 feet. When I walk down there, you gotta watch the lights because they take your head off. And they make it low so that there's basically, you can see in between those tanks, there's a little walkway. So when someone changes the oil in the car, they stand on that little walkway, so they get about 2 feet off the ground, and they can grab your filter, take the plug out, etc. So that's why the ceiling's built really low. So it makes it more accessible to do that job. And if you go in there, you'll see that it smells from oil. There's oil all over. I mean, you never have to worry about finishing the floors. The concretes are soaked in oil. I mean, that's all they do is change oil in there. As far as those type of facilities, as you can see, there's a hole in the floor. They can only be used for changing oil. They can't be used as a service garage. I mean, even if you put a piece of steel over that hole and bolted it down and put a hoist in there, as you know, if you've ever used them, I'm sure most of you have used them, is there's only a couple feet at the front and a couple feet at the back when you pull your car in. That's all they need to do, to take the oil out of your car. If you go into service garage, the service garage is probably gonna have 12 feet in front of the car, because they need a bench to take, they're taking your brakes apart, they gotta bang the brakes apart. The service technician has his toolboxes there, because any service technician provides his own tools. So you need an area in front of the car to do work on the car. A lube center doesn't provide you with that. It's just a door in the front and a door in the back. That's why you'll see in service centers, there's usually only a front door. If the service center is really deep, they'll have a front door and a back door with 2 spots in between. But you need in a good service center, you need somewhere to have a press to take bearings out of things. You need a tire changing machine. You might need a welder, a torch if you're doing mufflers. So you need a lot more space. A lube center does not provide that space to do any kind of work except change oil. And when it comes to single-use facilities, that's why the assessor has no rents for basement space, because basement spaces don't rent out. You never rent out that basement center in a lube space if it went vacant. Nobody would rent that. I mean, it smells more oil, what would you put down there? So if you look at my brief on the bottom, you'll see there's a breakdown from the city that basically that basement is 1,536 square feet. So the total rentable area is actually 7,699 square feet. So turn to page 2. Basically, the department's using 9235 square feet. I'm suggesting the leasable area is 7,699 square feet. And I'm using the department's overall rate of 1,530 square foot, I think is applicable. If you turn the page, you'll see some comparables that basically, that's what those kind of places rent for. So I'm using the blended rate. We're applying the department's parameters to that blended rate, 6.55% capitalization rate, and I'm getting a value of $1,671,000. And that's what I'm asking the board to reduce it to.
Okay, is that it?
Yep.
Okay, questions?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, Bob, any questions?
And so you're using a blended rate of 1,530 for both buildings?
Yes.
Okay, and the square footage of both buildings, but not the basement?
Correct, just the main floor.
The main floor of both buildings amounts to, you said 76?
7,699 square feet. And that's what the department has on page 1, as you'll see, main floor is 1,536 for the loop, 6,163 for the service, comes to 7,699 square feet, outside to outside.
So you're agreeing with the assessor on the rental per square foot,
Yes.
blended, eliminating the basement?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Lynn?
So you're saying that the basement has no value essentially?
Correct. If you're renting the space, the basement would come with it. Same thing as if a Cal Tire or any of those kind of places that have a mezzanine, you rent the main floor, the mezzanine comes with it. The owner doesn't break it down. I mean, if you rent it, you're not gonna say, well, I'll take the main floor, I don't want the second floor. Well, what's the owner gonna do? You're not gonna have different people walking through your front door of your muffler shop or whatever, walking through your reception area and going upstairs, so it just comes with it. That's how they all work.
That's how they all work, according to,
Well, I've been doing this for over 32 years, and I've gone through, I mean, in the department, I've gone through a lot of leases on these kind of places, and that's how they lease them out.
okay.
I
Did
mean,
you
that's
read-
taken into account when they rent the main floor out. If there's any added advantage, I mean, a place that didn't have a mezzanine space, they rent, it was exactly the same building, probably would rent a little less. Because the mezzanine space is included, it rents for a little more. But it's always on the main floor space.
Okay.
I've never seen a lease in my life that said so much for the main floor and the mezzanine for another amount. It's just a blended, whatever the owner tries to get for the main floor space. And that's the same thing with any kind of single occupant building. If you had any kind of retail building that had a basement in it, the basement comes with it. You don't put another rate on the basement. The only time you'd have another rate on the basement is if you had a totally different entrance, that someone would come in that entrance, go all the way down to the basement, and not interfere with anything happening on the main floor.
So it would need to be self-contained?
It'd have to be 100% self-contained.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is that you wouldn't be able to achieve the $15.30 rent on the main floor if you didn't have that sump space?
Well, it's all combined, it is what it is, like, I mean, it's not worth any more or any less than a service center, because it actually has, it's got problems with its fact that you can't do anything in there. When you get a service garage, I mean, you can do tires, you can do mufflers, you can do service repairs, etc. This building doesn't lend itself to that, it's only made for one thing, and that's to change oil.
So, for instance, you could have had a operation that just had lifts that does oil changes, and you wouldn't be charging for the lifts.
Well, lifts are chattels.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So whether it's a lift or a pit, you're saying it's accomplishing the same.
Well, it has a pit because it's made specifically to change oil, and it's made so that you don't get out of your car.
Yeah.
You have to stay in your car. If it was a lift, you'd have to get out of your car, because you can't sit in your car in a lift.
Yeah.
They won't let you do that. So that's why they make it this way. It's a quick oil, all they do is change oil, you know, it only takes 10, 15 minutes or whatever. So you stay in your car and they change the oil.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. All right, we shall move to Transcona, 1384 Regents. So you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. File number 19-4328, roll number 0900757090. The address is 1384 Regent Avenue West. We have a vehicle service garage, actual year built 1987. Leasable area 25,398 square feet. The recommendation, I have a new verbal rec to change the value to $5,171,000. And this is based on the same parameters in my brief, except changing the VSG vacancy from 4% to 10%.
5,170,000?
171,000. Flipping to page 3, we have a overhead view of the subject. We can see there's multiple properties on this roll. Turning to page 4 is the income stream for the vehicle service garage. The blended rate for all these units comes to $14.67. Vacancy is at 4%, expenses at 2%, and overall capitalization rate 6.55%. turning to page 5 are the comparables for the vehicle service garage. I believe these are the same comparables as the last group. Yes, they are, so I won't speak to them too much. Turning to page 6, is our valuation for the restaurant that is on this premise. The blended rate comes to $23.75. Vacancy at 3%, expenses at 2%, and overall capitalization rate at 6.5%. For our comparables, for the restaurant, it's found at the bottom of page 6. 6 comparables, all restaurants found on Regent, same as our subject. The average rate comes to $24.81. And turning to page 7 is the estimated market value. As I said at the start of the presentation, I'm changing the vacancy from 4% to 10% on stream 1. And that will get our valuation to $5,171,000. This change is based on the vacancy that this property has been experiencing over the last handful of years. And that is my brief, thank you.
Questions, Mr. Rick?
Did you say the recommendation was?
$5,171,000.
Well, first of all, I guess I should ask you if that recommendation is acceptable.
No.
I didn't think so. Okay.
Well, he's gone over the comparables before, so we touched on that before. And for this particular property, if you turn to page 4, which one of those premise IDs is actually a super loop? I'm assuming that it's the first one, 8811.
1 second. I believe so.
So you're applying a rent of $14.34 for the basement space, correct?
That's blended.
So the $14.34 is a blended rate?
Yeah, that's for the whole premise.
So then,
So the basement's included.
so the basement's included.
That's correct.
So then if it's a blended rate, then what is the 2 rates for the basement and the main floor? You're saying the main floor is worth what, $25?
I'm not sure on the specifics.
Okay. That's it for my questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Lynn, questions?
No, I have no questions.
Well,
Oh, one more.
okay.
Could you turn to page 10? Did you look at the income, you must have, since you know that there's a vacancy problem, and you've adjusted that, did you look at the actual rents that they're achieving? Because as you see, on page 10, those are all net rents.
Yes.
So you don't think that those net rents are true market?
Well, the super lubes are owner occupied, so,
Right, okay, so, okay,
and
look.
sorry, super transmission is owner occupied as well.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll rephrase that question. Number 3 is enterprise rent-a-car, that's actually arm's length. Number 4, Con Automotive, is actually a market rent, and the Miracle Dent is actually a market rent, and so is Original George's. So did you take a look at 3, 4, and 5? Since those are net rents, or did you not bother?
I did, so I'm getting $16 for number 3. What was the other 2?
Well, just asking, you don't have to calculate anything for us, that's not, I'll get into that in a minute. I was just wondering if you took a look to see.
I did, yes.
Okay, that's it. My questions, thank you.
Okay, Bob, you were for questions.
Yeah, you've listed all these different operations here on page 4. A vehicle service garage, but there's a restaurant involved.
Yeah, so.
Which is the restaurant?
It's on the second page.
The
Third page?
Yeah.
Page 6.
Page 6 is the restaurant, which is in addition to these spaces here.
That's correct.
These spaces here are all auto service related,
That's correct.
and one is a super loop.
That's correct.
Okay, the super loop is, does it have an auto service component as well here? Or is the super loop all within that 4,000? Does that include the lubrication and the service garage part of super loop?
I believe so,
It includes both?
yes.
Okay. So the others are also all auto related?
Yes.
And your blended overall is 1457 for those?
1467.
1467?
Yes.
Okay. I guess that's all I have right now, thank you.
I have no questions, so we can,
Okay, I'd say the first thing to do is take the back page off my brief. Shows you a diagram of the property. Makes more sense for you. So you can see the setup of the property. You can see Super Loop is number 5. Super Tune and Brake, which is owner occupied, also is number 1. Then you're getting Enterprise, and Enterprise is basically 50% of that building is office, where they rent the cars out, and then the back part, the doors are at the ends of the back to drive in and just clean them. And then you get the Common Auto, and then the Miracle Dent, and the Super Transmission is also owner occupied. And then the last tenants that were in building number 3, there's 2 locations in there, was Vicker Nissan and Vicker Chevrolet. And then number 4 is the restaurant. So if we go to page 1 of my brief, you will see that basically on the basement area of 2,096 square feet is for the Super Loop. And I've made that argument already about not including that area, so I won't go into that. What I'd like to take a note of is on the bottom there, as you see the 2019 assessment at $3,733,000. That was argued at the board by myself, and that was the number I wanted, and the board reduced it to that. The department has raised it to $5,573,000, and make note that that was a 49% increase in that property in 2 years. Now, when it comes to leases, if you signed a lease in 2018, you're going to sign a lease of at least a 5-year lease. So whatever the rents were in 2018 and or in 2016, sorry, for the 2018 assessment roll and appeal, they're the same rates for 2018. They'll be the same rates in 2020. They'll change in 21. So the only difference in value on a property, like on any property, would be the actual cap rate changing. So I'm not arguing cap rates today, but as you can see, there's a 49% increase in the property, which I think is extensive and far too much. Turn to the second page, it's just basically the overall rate of the building used. It's 1467, as the assessor said. The restaurant, which is on a separate income stream, is actually $23.75 a square foot. So we turn to the next page, page 3. The main floor of the Super Loop is 2,096 square feet, which I'm going to use, and basically I've made the argument already about the other pictures, so we'll turn. So here it is building 4 is George's. Building 3 is basically vacant today, that's where Vicar was, the 2 car dealers. And building 2 is 4 separate units. And then building 1 is the Super Tune and Break. So those are the buildings that are there today. So we turn to my page 5, you'll see those are some assessor care comparables. 1320, 1152, 1213, 1375, 1230. These are some comparables from Altus. And you can see they go 1320, 1230, 99, 815, 650, and 570. So the vacancy is basically, there's a chart that shows all the vacancy. The assessor said 10%. I'm going to apply 8% vacancy and use the actual adjusted rents. So we turn to the next page, you're basically getting the income expense mailer, 19% vacancy. There's a mezzanine space over about 900 square feet total over 4 units. That's included. As I was saying before, those kind of spaces are included. The owners included that in the rentable units. And I'm looking for $4,037,000. So we turn to the next page. Those are my adjusted rents. You'll see that the Super Lube, Super Tune Break, and the Super Trans I've highlighted in yellow because those are all owner occupied. The other buildings, Enterprise at $16, as I stated, that's high because half the building is actually where you walk in and rent your car, and there's a number of offices there. Conan Auto is $14. Miracle Dent is at $12. The 2 vacant spaces are at $12 because that was the last rent that they achieved on those spaces. And the original George's is at $22.78, which I used 2018. That lease goes on for a number of more years, so I'm going to use that. I think it is market. That's what they're achieving. So I've adjusted the Super Lube Tune number 1, 2, and 6. There would be a discount as far as what you're paying for rent. If you rented all of those 3, there's economies of scale. So I've used $12 for those, which the comparables support. So basically, the summation of the actual valuation is the restaurant. I'm using old city parameters. I'm using the actual 2278 to get 712,124. The auto shops, I'm using 1309, which is basically the average of all the spaces in the rents that they're actually achieving with the adjustments made to the actual owner-occupied spaces. And that number still comes in to comparable properties. I'm implying an 8%, and I made an error using a 6.5%, it should be 6.55%. So the actual value of that building is actually $3,299,068. So that property, all the auto shops together should be $3,299,068 instead of the $3,325,449. I apologize for that error. And that 6.55% is basically the department's cap rate. So I'm asking for the property to be reduced to $4,011,000, which I feel is more appropriate for the actual property based on my comparables. And that basically raises the property from the last assessment at $3,733,000 up to $4 million. So that's $4,011,000, almost a $300,000 increase. And that's my presentation. Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Zelinski?
Yes, thank you. Do you have any restaurant comparables?
No, I'm using the actual rent that they're achieving because it's quite in line at $22.78. And I think your brief came up to about $24. I looked at it. It is a good market rent. Actually, last year the department had a lower value, and I still use this value from last year's appeal, or 2018 appeal.
So do you believe one actual rent will make up the market?
I don't believe in one actual rent will make up the market, but if you look at it, and it's a market rent, and it was signed a couple of years ago, and I used it in 2018, and the department used a lower rent. That, I mean, $2 difference from what you're suggesting to what I'm suggesting, and the actual is, yeah, that's a market rent. I didn't ask you what your comparables were, but, I mean, it's George's, it's not a chain restaurant or whatever, and I think that's a very fair market rent for that space.
And then with your valuation on, I'm not sure what page this is, but you said you made a capitalization rate mistake, so it should be 6.55%?
Yes, exactly what you're using.
Okay.
I made an error and put.
And what does your valuation come to for just the auto shop then?
The auto shop areas comes to $3,299,068.
Okay, thank you. I have no other further questions.
Okay, Bob, any questions?
Now, you use the actual rent for the restaurant,
Yes,
and for the other tenants, you've used actual rents there, or
Enterprise is an actual rent, number 3.
these actual?
Yes, Con and Auto is an actual rent. Miracle Dent's an actual rent. The 2 vacant spaces were the actual rents from Vicar Nissan and Vicar Chev before they left. And Original Chargers is the actual rent. The highlighted ones, the 3 highlighted are owner occupied.
Okay. So the tenant actual rents, these leases run for another 2 years?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Or let's double check that, because it's here. Enterprise runs to 2024. Miracle Dent runs to 2022. And George's runs to 22.
Now, the Super Lube, you've got it $13?
$13.09. Yes, I'm using $13.09 blended rate for all the repair shops, the Super Lube and the other service garages.
Okay. And the last one we talked about was always the blended rate on that one, for Super Lube. Can't remember. We'll look back to that. I'll look back to it. I have that here somewhere. The one was 1530 that we just, Super Lube was 1530?
Yes.
Okay.
I use the
This one
same
is
blended
less.
rate. I mean, you're talking about $2 a square foot over 2,000 square feet.
Yeah.
There's not much value in there. So I decided to use the assessor's blended rate on that particular property.
Okay.
But for this property, I'm using $13, which is comparable to all the other garages and some of my comparables. I mean, it's not that much value when you're taking 2,000 square feet on $2. That's $4,000 total per year. So you take $4,000 and start taking vacancy off and the shortfall on that. It's not much value. I'm not gonna, argue the other one should
Sure,
go up.
okay. That's fine, thank you.
And any questions?
No, I have no questions, thank you.
Okay, I have no questions. I'm just doing some site plan here. Okay. Thank you for that. All right, and we'll just take a 5-minute break. We will recommence and go to 1585 Henderson. Excuse me. You may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. File number 194322, roll number 0400-100-8500. The address is 1585 Henderson Highway. We have a vehicle service garage. actual year built 1961, and leasable area 1,972 square feet. Recommendation is to confirm the assessed value of $383,000. Turning to page 3, we have an overhead view of the premise. As you can see, it's on Henderson Highway and Douglas Ave at the corner. At the bottom is a picture of the garage. Turning to page 4, more exterior photos. Turning to page 5 is our income stream for the vehicle service garage. Blended rate is $12.69. Vacancy at 4%, expenses at 2%, and the cap rate at 6.05%. This gets us to our estimated value of $383,000. Turning to page 7, rental comparables. These are all vehicle service garages. I won't speak to all of them, but the average here is, the net per square foot average is $13.17. And that is my brief, thank you.
Okay, questions, Mr. Rick?
Yes, we'd spoken on the phone about contamination on the site. Did you ever talk to Trish about that?
I didn't look into it too deeply,
Okay.
just from what you sent in.
Okay. And then I'd just like to turn to page 7, and I just want the board to take a look at the rental rates, because we just did a property. And you can see the rental rates are average of $13.17. And we've got a lot at $11.69, $11.74, $11.99, $12, and $13, etc. So when the assessor picks out comparables on properties, you can see that there's a lot of rates there, and those actually are pretty good comparables for the property we just did on regional. But anyways, the other thing is, on page 1, the actual year built is 1961, and effective year is 1961. So would you agree that no substantial money has been spent on this property?
It appears that way, yes.
Okay, that's the end of my question.
Okay, Lynn, any questions?
Nope.
Bob, questions?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, you can proceed with your presentation then.
Okay, you can take a look at page 1 of my brief. That's an original 1961 Red Rose station. I actually grew up 2 blocks away from that station, and one of my best friends, that's still a best friend today, his dad was best friends with the guy who built this station, and he's actually the guy who's actually leasing this station from the city of Winnipeg. It was purchased along with the garden center just south of it when they put in the Chief Pecos Trail, the connection from Lodge to Main Street, that roadway. So the city of Winnipeg actually owns this. And if you want to know what 1961 looks like, 1961, that station is 1961 inside. But it's contaminated. It's on the impact contamination sites listed in the Manitoba government website. I actually, last go around in 2018, I actually phoned the department and asked them why it's on there, and they basically said they came out and did a number of borehole samples. They do like what they call almost like a sniff test, where a meter kind of determines what's down there. They didn't determine whether or not the site is, the groundwater is contaminated, but there's definitely contamination on the site. The guy who runs it now would tell me stories when he was a kid. They used to put the oil basically in like an old, I guess an oil tank you'd have for your furnace outside. They would then just pump it into a bucket of a tractor and drive it into the bush and empty it. That's what they used to do with the oil back then. And in fact, a friend of mine, when we were talking about this one day, he says, you know what, I've got a Popular Mechanics book back from the 60s. And everybody, you guys must have remembered Popular Mechanics. And he says, there's a page in the back that gives you how to do things at home, and one has how to make your own oil pit in your backyard. So garages are mostly contaminated. And the other problem with these stations for contamination is it's the actual, back in those old days, the cylinder used to come out of the floor. It was hydraulic, it was run by air and hydraulic pressure to get the cylinder out to pick your car up, those old hoists. Those are a real problem with contamination, because when they leak down in that hole's probably 8-10 feet to get that cylinder to come out to raise your car. When they leak, they just keep putting oil in the reservoir to make it work again. Because you'd have to take that whole cylinder out to find out where the leak is. So they just keep topping up the reservoir inside the gas station. So that's a real bad problem with contamination on these stations. So if you turn to the next page, you'll see that's the workup from the department. And this property is actually in appeal, the municipal board for 2018. I was looking for a lower number than the 339 the department reduced it to. So if you turn to the next page, page 2, you'll see inside pictures of the building. That's the picture on the left is what stations used to look like in the old days when you walked in. Concrete floor covered oil. You can see the bathroom. That looks like a 1961 sink. And the bottom picture to your left, the washroom is actually that door. And then you can see the service area. I was talking before about area required in front of the car, and actually there's a bench there, and there's area even beyond that bench to your left. And that's the office, and the office, as you can see, there's only enough room for a chair. So if you turn the next page, you'll see it's owned by the city of Winnipeg. I don't know why they send the income expense mailer to him, but they do. I think the rent is applicable for that old style station. It's pretty hard to find rents. Property development comes up with that rent. So basically what you have where it says 2018, let's turn to page 4, be more self-explanatory. So page 4 is as proceeds auto body repairs, and it's on 197 Watt Street. It actually has the same problem, it's contaminated. Within the body shop, they do have hoists that are contaminated. And at the time for the contamination, the assessor decided to reflect that in the contamination. As you see below the detail, the decision is based on a verbal recommendation from the assessor, which was made because of contamination on site, and it was a 10.5% cap rate. 386. So if you turn the page, to page 5, that's a picture of basically the contaminated site, 197 Watt Street. If you turn to page 6, that is only part of the estimate for that property. So there's an estimate of $450,750 for Prestige Auto, which is on page 5, that auto body shop. And the report is probably a 1/4 inch thick. I didn't want to bring it in because it's just a whole bunch of graphs. But the owner also paid about $32,000 to have all the boreholes drilled to come up with this estimate. Pinchin Environmental actually did all the borehole drilling, got all the samples, and basically from those samples, Miller Environmental Corporation basically came up with this estimate of what it would cost to clean up $450,750 plus the $32,000 we spent for the testing. So let's go back to page 3. So basically, page 3 shows at the bottom there, that's the workup original of the, from the, if you look at the page 3 and 4 together, $540,316 was what the value of that property at 197 Watt Street was. It was reduced to $386, and you can see in the bottom calculation, that proves that the cap rate, using all the exact numbers, comes up to $385,000, $386,000. So it went from a 7.5 cap rate to a 10% cap rate due to contamination on that site. So for the subject property, what I'm recommending, if you go to page 5, is the actual rent is $10.72 a square foot. And when you're getting better places like Bramer Automotive, Speedy Muffler, Minus Muffler, and that's an average for those three places at $10.84. So actually, the rent at $10.72, in my opinion, for what you're getting is kind of high. But I'm using the rent that the city's charging them, and using the other parameters of 4% vacancy, 2% expenses, and 450 shortfall, and a 10.5% cap, so I'm looking for $186,000. Now here's the bottom line of the property. If the city was to sell it, if someone decided to do something with that building could sit there contaminated, it's okay. If you want to do anything with that building whatsoever, change it, put another building on it, if you want to do anything to that property, you have to clean up the contamination. You're forced to. It's the bottom line. So the property just has to sit the way it is. You can't add on to it. You can't do anything to it. You can leave it and you're okay. As soon as you touch it, you have to clean the site up. And then it's still gonna have that stigma that it was a contaminated site. And there's a number of sites that, I know there's a site that was contaminated and remediated on the corner of Watt Street, on the corner of Johnson and Henderson Highway, pass it all the time, it used to be a Pacific 66 station. Well, the contamination was so bad, there was a building next door, they took one unit out of that building and demolished that one unit to clean up that site. That site has been vacant for over 25 years. Nobody will buy that site. So, with that in mind, I know the city will never sell it, they'll just keep it for expansion of the Chief Haguas Trail. But with the contamination, I think that has to be, as the assessor did on another property, it has to be recognized, and I'm using a 10.5% cap rate, as was done on the other property that had contamination. And that's my presentation.
Any questions?
Yeah, so, do you know, you use 197 197 Watt Street as comparable, in terms of contamination?
Correct.
Do you know what the rent is for that particular property,
No, we don't.
or the year built?
No, we don't. I didn't provide that information.
Okay. You mentioned that most vehicle service garages are contaminated sites. Do you think the valuation is looked at in terms of that?
Well, I'll correct the statement if it was taken wrong. I would say all stations that have in-ground hoists that are this old would have contamination on them.
Okay.
If the newer ones that are built with, a slab with the hoists that are just bolted down to take your car, they would probably be contaminated, but this is so old, it goes back into the era that no one ever thought about. I mean, when I was a kid and changed my oil, we had a gravel back lane. I used to go in the back lane and just put the oil in the back lane, everybody did. So that's the problem, is the age.
I'm not too familiar with City of Winnipeg leases, but do they lease out at market, or how did?
I have no idea, I never negotiated that lease, I don't know.
Okay.
It appears that it's pretty close to market. I mean, I would say it's marketed at that value at 1072. I mean, if you just look at all your comparables over, for one of the other recent, you got 1169, 1174, and those are for buildings built in 1980, 1992, 1971, 85. I mean, this thing was built in 61. So I think 1072, and you can see the pictures of the inside. It's 1962 in there.
No further questions. Thank you.
Okay, Bob, questions?
Was this, you said this was a service station site that sold gasoline?
At one time, they did. So I don't know if they took the tanks out or what they did.
A lot of contamination of service station sites comes from the gasoline
Leaking
tanks,
tanks, yes,
which used to be metal and corroded.
yes.
So, okay. So if it was a service station site, could be corrosion, or pardon me, contamination came from gasoline.
Could, and actually, I think it'd be hard for them to test that because it's all concrete out front where the tanks were. And you can see.
Well,
where-
that migrates anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, exactly where the tanks are, there's a lot of asphalt concrete, and I don't know if they actually, I imagine they probably would have done around the building where because it's basically a whole bunch of bush behind there. That's probably where they tested it. I don't know if they actually drilled through the concrete you know, the pad, because the pads are all, there's different pads and they're all uneven and broken up and stuff like that in the front, so I don't know if they tested it or not.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, so this is on the impacted site list?
Yes, first page shows it listed.
Oh, okay, yes. All right, so if anybody ever wanted to do anything with that building, then they would have to remediate the site
By law.
by law, okay. So would that even include interior renovations?
You could do an interior renovations, but because the owner does all, like, that's a true net rent. The owner's required to do any repairs and maintenance himself, the city doesn't pay for anything. So he does minimal repairs, because it's not his place.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a
okay.
true net rent, like I mean, if it had a leak in the roof, he has to fix it. The furnace goes bad, he has to fix it. You know, hot water tank, he has to buy it.
Yeah, so you'd be buying a hot water tank for somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, most places, repairs and maintenance are, the landlord pays for them. Here, he's gotta pay for everything. I mean, he doesn't have high level, I mean, people will bring cars to him, have cars that are 10, 15 years old kind of thing. I mean, it's not high-tech shop in there.
Yeah.
There's only 2 of them actually working there.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll keep the same street number, but go down to 1585 St. Mary's Road. Different road, same number. Other end of the city. Okay, you can begin, Mr. Dolinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, file number 19-4305, roll number 0800-507-0100. The address is 1585 St. Mary's Road. We have an actual year built of 2014 and a leasable area of 3,946 square feet. The recommendation is to confirm the assessed value of $1,027,000. Turning to page 3, we have on the top a overhead view of where the property is located. It's at the corner of St. Mary's Road and Green, I believe it's Greenwood Ave. And the bottom of page 3 is a exterior picture. Turning to page 4, more exterior views. We can see it's a pretty new building. Turning to page 5, it's the income stream for this VSG. The blended rate comes to $15.12. Vacancy at 4%, expenses at 2%, cap rate at 5.4%. That gets us to our valuation of $1,027,000. Turning to page 7 is the same comparables I use for our other super loops. Probably don't need to speak to it too much, but the average is $15.67. And that is my brief, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions, Mr. Luke?
Yeah, could you turn to page 5? Just, what's going on with those premise IDs coming up to 9,865 square feet? What happened there?
I'm not too sure. It's obviously an error. If you look on the left side, the premise ID.
Oh, it's repeated.
Yeah, so it should just be the top 2.
Okay.
I'm not sure why it kept repeating like that. I'm sorry.
Okay, you picked up my question.
Yeah, that was my question too. Wait a second.
The rest of you.
Beat you to it.
Yeah, for reference, we have 2 premises, 281961 and 281964.
Okay. So basically, I guess what we can surmise from that is basically that blended rate comes from the first two, which would be $18.33 and $11.92.
Yes.
Okay, and I guess one would be, I guess not storage, office, retail, mezz, but that would be the basement, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So we're using $11.92 in the basement, $18.33 for a blended rate of $15.12.
That's correct.
Okay, that's it for my questions.
Okay, Lynn?
Yeah, that was my question too, about the square feet, but I also, there's a sale on this property?
Yes.
Could you speak to the sale?
Yes.
Arm's length, or?
Yes, let me see. I cannot speak to it being arm's length for sure. My notes on the property says we do not use the sale. So, there's a very good chance that it's non-arm's length, but I cannot say for sure. I'm not gonna put too much weight on it, it's a little bit older and we're not using it, so.
Okay. Okay, so, not used, all right, I guess that's it.
Any questions, Lynn?
Yeah, is this Super Loop one building?
I believe so, yes.
Not like the other one we looked at, it's not two buildings. It's just one building.
I believe it's just super loop, there's no, separate garage.
There's no separate garage, there's just a lube location, eh? Lube only?
Yes.
Okay. Then on page 5, you've got two different areas here, one 1973 and one, well, they're both 1973.
That's correct.
I don't understand what that means. Your leasable area is 1973 and one building?
So this would be 1973 main, 1973 underneath.
Oh, the basement encompasses the whole size of the building?
That's how we have it,
I see. And you assigned the basement then 1192 to the basement?
that's correct.
Okay. Before you were talking about $5 rate for the basement deal.
Yeah, this building's quite a bit newer than the other one.
So you think the basement commands a rent of 1192?
However you wanna break it down, basically $15.12 for
Building.
the space, yeah.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Okay, I have no questions, so you can give us your presentation.
Yeah, I'll just comment that that sale was actually, Jim owns some properties himself, and he's got a brother that he owns properties with, and that was just an internal kind of corporation sale. It wasn't a market sale. Some of these properties are under a Manitoba number, some are Jim Brusso Brothers. There's multiple owners, but they're all basically owned by the same guy. So I'll get to my brief. Yes, it is just a super loop. So you can see page 1. I've talked about super loops problems with them as far as what they can be used for, etc. So I'm not gonna go into it. So you turn to page 2, you'll see the property went up 33%. The 773 from 2018 is an appeal from the municipal board. You look at the very bottom, obviously it's 1973 on the main floor and 1973 square feet on the basement area. Apartments net rent is 1512 overall. I'm using 1512. So you turn to page 3. These are some assessors comparables. So you can see with the ones I picked, 1440 is the average. I'm fine with $15.12. The overall assessor's using. I'm using all the parameters. And I get 513,159, so I'm looking for the board to reduce to 513,000. That's my presentation.
Any questions, Mr. Zelinski?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So page 3, you said it's 2018 Muni Board pending.
Yes.
What's the issues with the argument there for the Muni Board
Valuation.
valuation? You wanna use what rate?
I haven't pulled up haven't supplied any of that information.
Oh, I see. Okay, I have no further questions.
Okay, Bob, questions?
No, I think, okay, you're saying 1923 square feet at the assessment rate of 1512.
Correct.
And he has double the square footage or something?
Well, he's using the basement.
Okay, as a separate entity with a kind of.
He's using, as you
I
stated
see.
before, he's using about 1182 in the basement and
Yeah,
whatever it was in the, with a blended rate of 1512, so I'm using
the blended rate is 1512, but he's using a double the space.
Yeah,
In effect.
he's using double the space, yeah.
I got you.
I mean, it's pretty hard to rent out a 6-foot-high oil pit. And the assessor has no comparables. I can't find comparables for what to rent for, and he has no comparables.
Okay, thank you.
Lynn?
No questions?
Just one question on this, I mean, this is about the, I guess, the third property we've had that had these pits. Do they not have some value for the operator in terms of being able to store their oil there? I mean, otherwise they'd have to find some other spot to store their oil, both used and new.
I don't think there's any value other than what the property would rent for as a whole. I mean, as I said before, there's a downside to it. I mean, this is a local Winnipeg company. I mean, the other one is, what's the other lube called? Mr. Lube. So Mr. Lube has got places close by in competition with these properties. So, and those properties, I've researched them because the assessor used them in 2018, and all those properties are franchises. So they're all owner occupied. And since they're franchises, the company, the lube company, basically determines where you're gonna build. They find a site where you're gonna build. And you buy a franchise, they build the building. And on their website, it goes on to explain that they basically, you get shirts, you get advertising, you get all the oils, you get all the connections to get your oil, everything like that, and they build the building to suit. So in other words, they build the building that they want. They're not gonna take this building over. They're gonna build what they want, what it's gonna look like, how it operates, their whole system. So if this building went vacant, then all you can use it for is a super lube. It'd be hard to use it for anything else. That's just part and parcel of that building, and how they do business is you need that pit. I don't think there's any value in the pit. In fact, I think there's less value in the pit. You're better off having more square footage on the main floor. So if you did want to use it for something else, you could. With that pit, now you gotta deal with that pit. If it ever became, like if Jim ever went bankrupt and he leased that out to someone, would it be George's Oil Change? Yeah, I mean, someone would have to buy it and use it for something, well, to use it for anything else, like retail or anything, well, now you gotta deal with the smell of the oil, all the oil in the basement. What are you gonna do with that space? I think if he went under, I think that building would stay vacant for an awful long time until someone figured out what to do with it. What do you do with that building? So I don't think that inherently there isn't a, I think it's actually detrimental to have that pit down there. Because if it went to rent for something, the only thing you can use it is for an oil changer. You gotta figure out some other use for it, and then, other than changing oil, I think the value would even go down.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. $3,400 Portage Avenue. You begin, Mr. Delansky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. File number 19-4327, roll number 07548192500. The address is 3400 Portage Avenue. The effective year built is 1985, and the leasable area is 12,019 square feet. Our recommendation is to confirm the assessed value of $2,301,000. This is another super loop. Turning to page 3, we have an overhead view of the parcel, and the bottom of page 3 is a picture of the property. Turning to page 4, the income stream here breaks everything down. The main floor space comes to 9,504 square feet, and we have basement storage is 2,515 square feet. Our overall blended rate for this premise is $13.52. Vacancy loss at 4%, expenses at 2%, and cap rate at 6.55. This gets us to our valuation of $2,301,000. Turning to page 6, same comparables as the other super loops. I won't speak too much to that, and that is my brief, thank you.
Okay, any questions?
Yeah, just turn to page 4. So the first line at 36,060, premise ID 6291, that would be the loop, correct?
I believe so, yes.
So 36,000 square feet, that's the main floor and the basement, correct?
3,600.
Yeah, so you're using 1427 on the basement and the main floor, correct?
Yes.
Okay. The question is now, there's actually 2 buildings on this property. There's a super loop and then there's the garage. Correct?
Yes.
Question is, why are there so many other premise IDs? Like, why is there, I mean, the garage is 1 building. Why would there be 2 on the main floor? Because you've got the total of 5,904 square feet, but it's broken up to 2,708 and 3,196 with 2 different rates. It was built as 1 building. Why is there 2 bids on that? And then the same question goes up, there's only 1 mezzanine space at 2515, yet there's 2 different rates on the mezz space. Is that some kind of error of someone punching in multiple bids for that?
I'm not sure why it's broken down like that. The only thing I can say is, let's look at the blended rate.
Okay.
1352.
That's all my questions.
Okay, Lynn, questions?
I was just trying to track those numbers. So it is 2 premises?
Yeah, there's a garage in the back, and then the loop in the front.
Okay, so I'm looking
2
at
different
your
buildings.
premise IDs. Can you explain what is going on with each of the premise IDs? So 6291 is the loop,
I believe so.
and that's main floor only? Like, I'm just trying to understand the square footage here.
We don't have it broken down by separate buildings. Basically, it's combined. The 2 storage spaces with the main floors of both the areas. I don't have the exact breakdown on me.
Okay, so you're saying we should be looking at this as a whole?
Yes.
With
In
the-
terms of
both
valuation.
premises with a blended rate of 1352?
That's correct.
Like, that's sort of the bottom line on that one?
Yes.
Okay, and I think you said that the basement area, mezzanine area, totaled 2515 in total?
Yes.
All right, main floor 9504.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that.
Perhaps I could, sorry to interrupt, but perhaps I could answer one of your questions there, that on that, the premise ID number 6291.
Yeah.
The first one, the 3,600 square feet, that is both the main floor and the basement. I asked that question of them. So do you confirm that 1427 a square foot is basically the rate for the main floor and the basement?
Of the loop,
Yeah, of the loop trunk.
and then the 33905 and 33906 is the basement of the service garage. Is that then correct?
There is no basement in the service garage. The
Okay.
service garage has a mezzanine.
Mezzanine, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
which is total 2515 square feet.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, do you have any questions?
I don't think so right now, thank you.
Okay, and I have no questions. So thank you for that. I guess we're Your presentation, yeah.
Okay,
Wait, I got a little confused here.
Okay, if you look at my brief, you'll see the top picture is the lube in the front and the service garage in the rear, right behind it. There's pictures of, I'm not gonna get into, we've covered all that about the basement, so. But what you'll do is the bottom, the commercial section from building summary, is you see the basement is actually 1,800 square feet, the main floor is 1,800 square feet, it'll leave for a total of 3,600. Total leasable I'm using is, as you'll see, is the main floor area, the second box, 1,800 for the loop and 5,904. For a total of 7,704 leaseable, plus the second floor storage of 2,515. So I'm putting value on the second floor. So you turn to the next page, you'll see that the property's gone up 39%. The 2018 value of $1,650,000 is actually at the municipal board. So the department's net rent is $1,352 overall. So you return to the next page. You'll see the picture on your left, where that T section is, that's actually a unit they use for alignments. But the mezzanine, that door right there is how you get up to the mezzanine space. So the picture on your right is actually the mezzanine. It's basically storage space. You can see there's an oil tank up there, there's a compressor, some tires. If you look on the bottom left picture, that's above the garage, some of that mezzanine space they used to store tires, customers' tires. When they rotate tires, and you'll see it's actually open into the garage. So any fumes from the garage that weren't pumped outside are gonna come up into the mezzanine space. They're gonna rise up there, and the picture to your right is another part of the mezzanine space where they basically just keep records. So, got a whole bunch of comparables down there. I'm using the department's rent of $1,352, which the comparables are in favorable of. So you turn the page. This is my breakdown. The lube shop and the lube in the lube shop main floor and the service garage, I'm using the blended rate of $1,352. Mezzanine space, which in most cases is included in the main floor area, but I'm going to apply a market rent of $7 for that second floor space to come up with $121,763. That's an overall rate of $1,192. So basically, and that $1,192 actually falls within a lot of the comparables, as you've seen in some of the assessors' briefs, specifically the Henderson Highway old garage. There's a lot of rents at that $12 range, just for main floor space, so I think that's acceptable. So using $1,192, I'm getting the $121,763 for the overall rent. Using all of the department's parameters, I'm getting a value of $1,721,000. That's my presentation.
Okay, questions, Mr. Zelinski?
Yes, so, you're looking to take out the basement,
Correct. The loop shop.
okay? So I didn't ask this before, but, so this would be, these loop centers, they're a quick service?
Correct.
So, don't you agree that the basement space adds quite a bit of value for what they're trying to do? Like, drive in, drive out, you're gone. Like, would they be able to,
Well, it's designed that way.
yeah,
So the rent would be on the main floor, it's designed that way. I mean, same thing as you get some of these Cal tires and that, they have mezzanine space over the, when you walk into in the service area or the customer service area, they all have mezzanine space above them. But when they lease out, they just lease for the main floor.
right,
So basically, these are designed that way. And there's a detriment to that if that place ever went vacant, what are you gonna use it for? That space in the basement doesn't become any value to anyone else. It's just that's the way they design it, because like I said before, people can't get out of their cars. That's the whole purpose of having that space, that basement space. And it's only 6 feet high. I mean, you can whack, if you're higher than 6 feet, you can whack I almost whacked my head up on just the electrical conduit that's down there.
but for the nature of this type of business, it's pretty valuable for what they're trying
Well,
to
you
do.
can't assess the business. You have to assess what the property's worth for
Yeah.
rental.
Yeah,
It's good for the business, but it's not good for renting.
if you owned a lube if you wanted to open a loop, vehicle service garage, this would work for a lot of different people, would it not?
No, it wouldn't. Because there's not enough room in a loop center. You'd be better off just having a service garage, put the guy's car in the hoist and drain the oil out. Because now you can take his tires off, you can fix his,
I just mean like if you were just specifically just to do lube,
well, that's what it's designed for.
okay.
I think if it went vacant, you'd have to get another homegrown guy, Joe's Lube or something, to go in there, because you're not gonna get any other franchise company, because they're gonna find their own location. They find their own locations. When you get a franchise, they tell you where you build.
Right.
So this wouldn't be used by another franchise, it would have to be used by another independent guy.
Okay, and like if, in terms of valuation, if we were just to assign one rate instead of breaking it into two, would it make any difference?
I don't think so, because you can't do anything, like, I mean, a service garage, you can do a lot of things in service garages, I've talked about. There's not enough room in here, like, there's no room to have a bench if you wanted to, let's say, do automotive repair or brake services, or do, let's say, mufflers or something like that. Now you need a room for a bending machine, you might need a press, you need places for toolboxes, for benches. It doesn't have that.
Okay. All right, thank you, no further questions.
Okay, Bob, questions?
Yeah, your mezzanine area, you've assigned a rent of $7.
Yes.
And it looks like the assessors assigned two rents here, 1004 and 1021.
Yes.
That's right. How did you arrive at $7?
I took basically half as a storage space. I treated it like a basement. A basement is usually about half what you get from the main floor for renting. And because this is open mezzanine space to the shop, I mean, fumes are gonna go up there, and you can see the pictures of it. It's not nice space. I mean, they got tires, they got compressors, they got an oil tank up there. It's minimal space. You would never lease that out as anything, so I just used about half the rate I'm using on the main floor, basically.
Okay. It's not behind the service area, it's upstairs. a
It's
second service.
upstairs, yes, it's upstairs.
And they use it for storing tires, that's basically it, you said?
Yeah, well, some
An oil
pictures,
tank there, but.
they got an oil tank, they have the compressors up there, they keep some parts up there, and they keep some records up there. I mean, the guys are always running up there with their oily shoes and stuff, it's just bare bone space. The biggest thing is, it's like, it's open to down, it's open to downstairs, so any kind of fumes or smells that are in the shop are gonna go up there. So it's like a basement to me, that's how I looked at it.
So you think it wouldn't be rentable to another party?
No, because the only way to get through it is if you look through, if you look at page, oh, sorry, I didn't even know how many pages. Let's say page 3 with all those pictures. The picture on your left, top left, you can see like almost a ladder in that door to your right. So you have to walk right through the shop area, and that's the hand railing going upstairs. So you
There's
couldn't.
no outside entrance to this
No.
second floor?
You have to actually walk past the lift and the hoist here and walk through that door. And as you can see, talking about loop centers, you can see how much space is behind where the cars are. Like, there's doors there, and there's a whole work area behind there. So you need additional space. I mean, you can see that there's actually a tire machine in the other door. The door to the left, at the back there, that's a tire machine sitting there in that doorway. So you need a lot more space in front of the vehicle to work on stuff that goes on the vehicle, which the loop center doesn't have. That's the problem with that loop
Sure.
center. If you're gonna operate that loop center as a garage, you probably have to eliminate one stall,
I understand what you're saying.
to put all your equipment in, to work on the cars.
Okay, thank you.
Lynn, questions?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Now we can go on to 100 Higgins. So you can begin, Mr. Kowalski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. File number 19-1691, roll number 130912755500. The address is 100 Higgins Ave. Actually, your build was 1976. and our leasable area 15,160 square feet. Our recommendation is to confirm the assessed value of $995,000. Turning to page 3, we have an overhead view of where the property is located at the top of page 3. Bottom of page 3 is an overhead view of what the subject looks like. You can see it's at the corner of Gomez Street and Higgins Ave. Turning to page 4, just different angles of our subject property. Turning to page 5 is the income stream breakdown for this storage warehouse. Blended rate of $5.80, vacancy at 6%, expenses at 2%, and a cap rate at 7.8%. Turning to page 7, please, are my rent comparables. The comparables from 1940 Logan Ave, net per square foot rate of $4.11. 1870 King Edward, net rate of $8.15. 963 Dugald Road, per square foot rate of $8.76. And 971 Dugald at $9.12. Average of all these rents comes to $7.54. And that is my brief thank you.
Okay, Mr. Rath?
Yeah, could you turn to page 2 of your brief? Could you speak to that sale? It's November 6, 2012, $181,250.
It is not arm's length, not reflective of market value, did not include for analysis as per my notes in our system. I'm not sure on the reasoning, didn't go into detail, so I'm not gonna put any weight onto this sale.
Okay. Could you turn to page 7, the comparables? Now, the subject property is 15,160 square feet, 15,000. And I can see you've got 3 comparables of 3,500, 2,940, and 2,914, and only 1 is the size of the subject property. Could you not find anything a little more?
That's, when I was looking, that was all I could find that was comparable, so I would put the most weight on my second comparable.
So your most weight is on comparable number 2?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess we can see a little bit of economies of scale here from 912, 876, and 815, and number 2 is your best comparable. You're gonna put you're putting your weight on number 2.
In terms of size.
Okay. So in terms of size and the rate? Well, you're using a blended 754. I'll disregard that question. That's it for my questions, Mr. Chairman. That's enough.
Okay, Bob, questions?
No questions, thank you.
Lynn?
So you're actually using a rent of $580 on page 5.
Yes, that's correct.
So it's significantly lower than the $815 that you're putting your weight on for comparable number 2. And why would it be so much lower than that rent?
Well, I wanted to reflect the size. I'm not sure why it's so different. I know Oak Point Highway for comparable 2 would be a more desirable area.
Okay.
That's probably the biggest difference there.
Okay. And I'm just looking at the effective year built, 1997, so there has been some investment in this property?
There has, I don't have any of the permits on me, but I believe there has been some work done.
Okay, but you can't speak to what that work might be?
I cannot.
Okay, okay, thank you. That's all the questions.
Okay, so this is an industrial warehouse,
Yes.
so not,
It's a vehicle service garage. We bumped it down to storage warehouse, in terms of valuation.
okay, so what do we do? Do they service the trucking industry, or?
Yeah.
I could perhaps answer that question.
Okay,
The property was purchased from Shinnecoe as a package. Canada Cartage basically was renting there. So when it was purchased, they picked up 92 Gomez, the subject property, 100 Gomez, 47 Gomez, and 34 McDonald. 34 McDonald's on the very edge of Gomez. 34 McDonald's a big metal garage to park semis in, to store them. And this was a service garage for semi-trailers.
okay.
So it was a combined property, so you have the big warehouse, and, you know, you have the big, like the Higgins is here, you got Gomez is the big warehouse. You've got a little building here, and the service garage is right here. So it's multiple doors to, it's big enough to pull a semi in and work on a semi-trailer, basically.
Okay. But location then probably, well, it's certainly outside the heart of where the trucking industry is.
It's, well, you know, we had 47 Gomez in yesterday, and it's been vacant for, I mean, when I was surprised the owner purchased that whole package. He had ideas of actually making a learning center, working with native community groups and stuff. It didn't pan out. So when Canada Cartage moved, that place has been virtually between 80 and 100% vacant ever since, even though he's tried to lease it. Is because exactly what you said. You're better off renting a nice building on the extra industrial that is all designed for semi-trailers. Where Higgins is not the best place to operate a gigantic warehouse with semi-trailers coming and going.
Okay. All right, I have no more questions of the assessor. We kind of got distracted there. At least I answered the questions. So you can begin your presentation.
I'll begin with a little rebuttal information. Just pictures of the comparables.
Thank you.
Basically what you're looking at is, this is 963 Jubal. And that was assessor's comparable number 3. One of the smaller spaces. That's actually, as you see at the top picture, that's Jade Trucking. And I know the building because it's a friend of mine. A friend of mine's, and his dad actually operated that trucking business. So in the back there to your left, that big shop back there is actually where the semis go in and they work on them, they store them and do work to them. The little building that the assessor's talking about is the one to your right and the one to your bottom, which is just, it's not attached. And you can see that the door there, you can't get a semi into that door. What that is it's called Shift Products. And the son operates that. And if you turn the page, we'll see what it is. It's a retail shop. So the whole inside is basically retail, and that door is used to bring in products, because they're semi-trailer products. They're huge wheels and mag wheels and pipes and exhaust pipes, etc. So you can see you got lighting accessories for stainless steel accessories for Peterbilt, fenders for semi-trailer trucks, chrome fenders they have in there. And you can see all products on your right, J Transport, mile 50, you can buy premium fancy fenders, they advertise for your catalog, etc. So that's actually, that little building there is actually a retail building for semi-trailer parts, custom parts for trailers, mag wheels, etc. The other thing I want to show you is the 1870 King Edward, which the assessor is relying on for actual size. And that is actually called, if you look at the next page after, it's called King's Truck and Trailer Repair. And they have a website. And as you can see the two pictures, one is taken to the right side of the building, one is taken to the left side of the building. So that building is designed so you can pull a semi-trailer in with the trailer attached from one side of the building. It looks like from the bottom picture that they come from the right side of the building, pull it right into the shop, and that shop is big enough for the semi-trailer tractor and the trailer. So that's how big that shop is. So they actually do like trailer repairs, if your trailers, if it's damaged or whether it needs new insulation or whatever, or the reefer on it, the air conditioning unit needs to be replaced on it or repaired, that's what they do. So it's a huge shop that you can actually drive the truck straight through. And it's in a better location. I mean, it's obviously, being on King Edward, it's in the heart of the trucking community where all the truck transport companies are. So that's a better location. So I think that the comparable number 3 is not comparable. That's a retail, and 1870 King Edward, I would say, is not comparable due to the fact that you can pull the whole semi-trailer in with a tractor. Although the assessor's using a lower rent, but I just wanted to point that out. Any questions?
No, questions on the rebuttal? You have any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, 1870 King Edward, do these garages have underground pits for the semis?
No.
They just,
They pull the whole truck in. They pull the truck in, the tractor, they call the tractor that pulls it, and the trailer in. So they do repairs and maintenance, same as the subject property.
oh, how do they get underneath the truck?
Well, as
Is
you
rolling?
right underneath the semi, they have like 2-foot high clearance to get underneath the semi.
Okay.
You can crawl underneath it on your hands and knees, it's so high.
Okay, thank you very much. I have no further questions.
Okay, so on with your main presentation then.
Okay, if you look at page 1, it shows where the building is, and it is for truck repairs. So you looked at page 2, went up in value 32% in 2 years on Higgins Avenue. I think that's excessive. On the bottom there, you'll see that the actual lease that's in place from 2016 to 2018, and then a month-to-month lease on the bottom. That was there previously in 16. That was the restoration part is on one side, and then the truck repair place is on the other side. So if you turn to the page, on the next page, you'll see it is a total gross lease. Maintenance of repairs are very minor, $4,475. There's utilities and property tax recoveries. So the gross per year, based on both his rents, one is getting, the restoration is paying $736 gross, and then the Manitoba numbered company is paying $624 gross. So to get the gross income, that's the rent for a full year. I used a full year even though one of them only started in, the Manitoba company only started in July of 2016. Runs full through 17, and the month-to-month one, I don't know how many months they're there, but I basically used the rent per month at that time to get a full year lease. So it comes out to $104,187 for the total rent. There is a little bit of parking income, $575. Utility and maintenance recoveries at $13,492. Property tax recoveries at $6,922. So you get a total gross income of $125,177, or $826 a square foot. So you turn the page, you'll see the gross income is $125,177. Expenses are $50,696.59. So the NOI is $74,518. That works out to almost $5 a square foot, which I think is pretty reasonable for that area. Using all the department's parameters, I'm getting a value of $827,600, which represents about a 10% increase over the 2 years. That's my presentation.
Okay, Mr. Lindsay, questions?
Yes, thank you. Oh, I see. Actually, I just answered the question myself. I have no further questions, thanks.
Okay. All right, Lynn, any questions?
No, I have no questions, thanks.
Bob, any questions?
No, I don't think so, thank you.
Okay, so you're relying on the leases in place and you're basically trying to net them out from the gross leases?
Yeah, just, I included the recoveries and the parking and what they're actually paying, the rent over the years. Like when I went back and looked at it, rent hasn't changed much over the last few years, even when these guys weren't there. So I feel that the actual rent is market rent for that location.
Okay. Thank you.
Just,
So Wendell Phillips has been withdrawn. Has he signed to
Yep.
withdraw? Okay. So our last item then is 1010 Arlington.
could I just make one quick, I mean, the only difference between the assessment rent on that last property is basically 87 cents. And I mean, if he's, using his comparables were higher, I don't think, it's basically computer generated. I think it's close enough for being on Higgins, there has to be something better than being on Higgins, and not in an industrial area. And that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, okay. Is there anything you want to add in?
No, that's okay.
All right, our last property is on Arlington, 1010 Arlington. So you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. File number 19-4312, roll number 1307054200. The address is 1010 Arlington Street. We have an actual year built of 1960 and a leasable area of 22,004 square feet. Our recommendation is to confirm the assessed value of $1,931,000. Turn to page 2, overhead views of the subject. Turning to page 4, we have the breakdown of the income stream. The blended rate comes to $8.26. Vacancy loss at 4%, expenses at 2%, and a cap rate at 8.65%. Turning to page 6 are the comparables. The first 3 comparables are found on Arlington. Then we have 999 William, 1870 King Edward Street, 614 Dudley, and 963 Dugald. The average of these rents comes to $9.01. And that is my brief, thank you.
Okay, questions?
Yes, if you look at page 6, your comparables,
Yes.
the subject property is 22,000 square feet. And I'm surprised that you're using like 3,000 square feet, comparable 1, 3,800, number 2. The other Arlington is like 4,500 square feet. Your last comparable in Dugald is 2,940 square feet, which is the J Trucking we just talked about. That is the retail shop or truck store. Can you not find it, you've only got one at 17,000. And that one at 17,000 square feet is actually the King's Trucking we just talked about for semi-trailers. Could you not find anything else that's same size as subject property that would be in a body shop?
In terms of this area near Arlington, these are the best I could find. I wanted to hit on what this area is getting for rents.
But really, 3,000 square feet, like, what is that? I know what's at 1066, 1070, and 1070 Arlington. Can you tell me who's those, because those are small buildings. Can you tell me who's in those places?
Sorry, which one?
The first 3.
The first 3, Don Vito Auto.
And what are they doing in there? Is that not a glass place?
They do auto body.
No, they don't. That's
Well,
actually part of Don Vito, that's actually a place you bring a car and just have your window changed.
Well,
There's no such thing as a 3,000 square foot auto body shop.
they have,
It's called Don Vito because he owns it.
okay, yeah. Well, the first one is listed as Don Vito, the second one is Don Vito Auto, and the third one is Don Vito Auto Body. They're all right beside each other, as the address suggests.
Okay, I'm not gonna, I won't press you any further on it. It's not, those are so small areas, it's not the actual auto body shop. I know Don Vito because I raced Winnipeg Speedway with him. I've been in a shop many times. Those aren't a shop, those are buildings that are built right on Arlington. One is a glass place with one garage, it's only 3,000
Well,
square feet.
you're getting the evidence.
Okay, I won't ask any more questions then. All right,
You can,
okay, we'll forget about that. That's my questions then.
okay, Bob, questions?
I have none, thank you.
Lynn?
I must have missed this. What kind of shop is this?
This shop, it's a vehicle service garage.
So it's a garage.
I have.
It's an auto body shop.
I have the name. Winter's Auto Body.
So it's an auto body shop. So I guess I have to ask the question, would you, maybe a comparable should have looked at other auto body shops?
Yeah, for sure. Comparable number 6 is Boyd Auto Body Group.
It's Boyd.
Yes.
Again, it's quite small though. Right, it's about a quarter the size,
That's correct.
not maybe a third. Yeah, okay, so, but that is Boyd Auto Body, okay. I'm just noting that for myself, thank you. Can you speak to the cap rate, or is it in your cap rate chart, or?
Unfortunately, my chart doesn't have vehicle service garages. It's model driven, based on size, sales, square footage, and year built.
Can you speak based on your expertise, whether 8.65 falls in the top end or the bottom end of the cap rate?
I would definitely say it's definitely a little bit on the higher side.
It's on the higher side. I'm looking at your effective year built. It's 1974 to 1999, so that, you didn't, I don't think you have pictures. I'm sure we'll see in the next presentation of the outside or this building quality, or it's
Yeah.
relatively,
Unfortunately, I don't have any
Okay.
interior pictures.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bob, questions?
No, I have none, thank you.
Yeah, I have none. So you can proceed.
All right, I'd just like to, motivation and bother already. Yeah, just 2 comments. Is, the one that's comparable number 4, at 1063, there's a reason why it's 1063, because it's Best Buy Auto on 99 William. It's used car dealer, and that building was extensively renovated probably within the last 10 years. So it's all showroom space inside, so that wouldn't be a comparable property. The King semi-trailer repair, we talked about that. You can't drive a semi-trailer into the property that we're talking about, subject property. Any questions?
Questions on his rebuttal evidence?
No, I do not.
Okay, I'll get to my brief. As you can see, it's 1010 Arlington. It's Winter's Auto Body. There's a picture of the outside from the front street. Basically, it went up 18%. Cap rates have stayed pretty well stable. Auto body shop like this If you rented it out, you'd probably rent it for 5 to 10 years and the rent wouldn't change. So looking on page 2, there's a certificate agreement on the realty in 2018, based on what the rent would be in 2016 if you signed the lease, and basically the assessor and the representative at the time used $7.50 for the net rent on the property. I carried that over when I did the actual business assessment on it, and again at the bottom, the business assessment, we used $7.50. It was agreed upon that that was the market rent at that time. If you turn the page, you'll see that's the actual business assessment at $7.50. As you'll see from page 2, the total with all operating costs was $210,115, and basically it's we did the recommendation to $210,060. It's $7.50 a square foot. Turn to page 4. The only thing that has happened is the cap rate in 2020 decreased from 8.75% to 8.65%. So that's the increase in value from that. The rent wouldn't have changed. The rent would be the same for the next 5 years. And so we have some auto bodies. Probably shouldn't use Kings because it doesn't actually, it's not comparable, just notice that. But you have Moray Auto Collision at $650, $11,000. You've got Platinum Auto Body, that actually comes from an Altus breed, at $570. You've got Mako Auto Body, which I actually represent that property at Wall Street, 12,000 square feet at $5.25. So if you're averaging it out, that even with the high one in there, you're getting about $6.40. So $7.40 I'm applying to the property, which would be the rent they would have been paying for the next 5 years, minimal, maybe 10, if it was rented out. I'm using all the department's parameters, and the only increase in value that's going to happen is because of the cap rate moved. So I'm looking for $1,749,000. That's my presentation.
Okay, questions, Mr. Dolinsky?
Yeah, just turning to page 4, use comparable. I was wondering what type of business is Platinum Auto?
Platinum Auto, they're basically, they basically do everything. They actually even sell a few cars out there.
Okay. And then Mako Auto Body?
Mako. Oh, I didn't,
Sorry,
I missed the C, I guess. It's M-A-C-C-O. Mako Auto Body on Wall Street.
That's auto body work?
Yeah.
Okay. I have no further questions, thank you.
Okay, Bob, any questions?
Yeah, this is owner occupied?
Yes.
What is, oh, that's already
Yeah,
said.
that's what the cert and everything was on based on what we hashed out as what the rent should be in 2018 or 2016. And typically, these kind of places rent for a minimum of 5 years. So it'd be the same rent today, basically. The value increase would have been from the cap rate.
Okay. I don't think I have any others, but.
Okay, Lynn?
No questions.
I have no questions. Well, thank you very much for your time and presentations. We made a good time today. So that concludes today's hearing.
Uh,
Thank you.
That's it?
Yeah.